I want to start by thanking everyone for being here. I'm going to give an introduction to the Velvet Society. So the occasion of this panel is Litehouse Gallery's latest exhibition, Velvet Society, Power and Glamour in 90s Damascus at P21 Gallery. Velvet Society describes itself as the exhibition of the creative acts of survival in fashion and fabric of two Syrian women. These women are civil engineer and now curator Raghad Mardini and artist Heba Al-Akkad. A 90s high fashion collection with a photographic archive belonging to Raghad Mardini is juxtaposed with artworks made in fabric and fibre by Heba Al-Akkad. Raghad Mardini and Heba Al-Akkad are two Muslim women who lived in Damascus during the 90s, but belonged to highly different classes. However, both were victims of gendered physical violence and social control. These women struck a friendship in exile in Lebanon, which was founded in their mutual desire to redefine a woman's place in their society. Raghad Mardini, I'm gonna introduce Raghad Mardini now. I'm delighted to introduce you, Raghad. So Raghad went to Damascus University to study civil engineer. In 2000, Raghad left Syria to find home in Beirut. There, she set up Art Residency Ali in Lebanon, a residency to support young Syrian artists. It was at that residency that Mardini met Heba Al-Akkad, the artist in this exhibition. Now, after completing her master's in museums and contemporary culture at Westminster University, Raghad Mardini has set up Litehouse Gallery, based in London, which seeks to be a hub for contemporary Syrian and Middle Eastern art and artists, championing them and sparking meaningful dialogues between cultures. Thank you, Raghad.
Thank you, Zena, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on such a hot, beautiful Saturday. Litehouse Gallery is honored to present a webinar with Lebanese activist Rana Khoury. Rana is a creative director and social entrepreneur. She is behind most of the Gender Equality Award-winning campaigns coming out from the Arab region. Her distinguished work is recognized and has won many international awards, among which is 15 Cannes Lions, D&AD, Epica, Effis, Caples, Lynx, to name a few. Rana served in regional and international juries. She has dedicated the last years of her career to campaigns that would bring real change on the ground and have a huge impact on local communities and on institutional levels in both Lebanon and the region. Khoury is a lecturer at the American University of Beirut in a creative writing class of media and communication. Recently, she established a social enterprise called Phenomenal Women that links women in difficult situations and survivors of domestic violence, trafficking, sexual abuse, and discrimination to training opportunities and job prospects to help them leave the never-ending cycle of violence. Rana will talk to us today about her enterprise. Some housekeeping, please mute yourself while the speaker is presenting. You can unmute at the end of the session to ask questions. You can also write the questions in chat. We have with us artist Heba Al-Akkad, whose work is shown in Velvet Society exhibition, currently at P21 Gallery. Heba is joining from Gothenburg, Sweden. Hi, Heba.
Hi. Hi.
Hi. Okay, so Rana, please unmute yourself and you can start.
Thank you, Raghad, and thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to be able to talk about phenomenal women because I think it's, when something is dear to my heart, I would like to also share it with others. And I hope it's just the start of an opportunity to learn more about phenomenal women and me about what you are doing. So we have this mutual knowledge of what we are doing. Just a small note. So I am from Beirut. I lived in Lebanon my entire life, but I left Lebanon recently. I'm currently in Beirut. I'm now living in Paris. I left after the August 4 explosion. Today, Phenomenal Women, which was a social enterprise that we launched, me and my partner, the co-founder of Phenomenal Women, Caroline, in Lebanon in 2019. And today we are also continuing to work, obviously in Beirut, but also from where we live, which is in France. To tell you a bit about Phenomenal Women and how the idea came, I've worked for several years, 15 actually, in communication. I still am. And I worked a lot on gender equality campaigns and women's rights campaigns, which was for me a very big opportunity to learn a lot and also to be very close with gender equality NGOs here in Beirut, and also a lot of survivors, which are the phenomenal women. And throughout the years of working on these campaigns, there was always this glitch within the system. It's all a glitch, actually, when it comes to violence, but there was this glitch, which was financial independence, which was a big issue when it comes to leaving a cycle of violence. In Lebanon, although the majority of the population is women, only 23 or 25% of women do work and are part of the employment market, which means a lot of the women are dependent financially. And in many instances, they are dependent on the instigator of violence. So financial independence was crucial to get out or to have an opportunity to get out of the cycle of violence and start over. And that's where Phenomenal Women's idea came. And Phenomenal Women works with NGOs in Lebanon, gender equality NGOs and women's rights NGOs, to link women, survivors of violence that come from difficult conditions, to be able to be financially independent. And the way we do it, of course, there is the training opportunity, and I'm gonna explain a bit with images what we do in a bit. There is the training opportunities. There is the job linkage. So let's say, for example, there is a training today for phenomenal women in aid nurse, or let's say in accounting, or whatever is the training. And then it's our job to link them to jobs. But also Phenomenal Women creates products and services for phenomenal women, because the process of creation was also very important for us, and to be able to invest what we know, which is we worked with in creativity and Caroline in design, to be able to invest what we know and our knowledge throughout the years into creativity. Now, what we create, what we created and what we hope to continue creating as a Phenomenal Women brand, we create things or services from the prospect of women as well. So whether it's clothes, whether it's, I'm going to talk to you also about a project called Jiab, which is pockets, which is add-on pockets on women's clothes, because women's clothes don't have pockets. And it's very important to have pockets and not to carry your bag. So everything that we think of is also from a perspective of women. And everything that we think of is also a shared brainstorming session with phenomenal women we work with. And everything is produced by phenomenal women in partnership, let's say, with a designer, with a cook. We also have menuiserie. So we did a training in furniture design. So everything in wood and cement. So also we partner with other stakeholders that are knowledgeable in the field, in the whatever the field is, and they train the phenomenal women, and we create, and voila. And today we were so we presented to the world's biggest incubator. It's called Station F in France. They have a program called Fighters Program, which is startups and social enterprises that have a social impact. And we were selected, and it's our first year today in Station F, in this very large incubator, where we kind of try to develop more phenomenal women and take it to new ambitions that we have. I'm gonna share my screen just because I think it's interesting to also maybe have a visual aid sometimes. Let me know if you can see the screen. Yes, no. Can you see the screen? Yes, okay. Yeah. All right, so Phenomenal Women is a social enterprise that links women living in difficult conditions and survivors of gender-based violence to job opportunities to become financially independent. So we do it through trainings to develop skills, providing jobs, but also through creating our own job. And it's very important that part of the sessions we did since 2019 with women survivors of violence, and that come from quite difficult conditions, is that there was this trend that was thought of, that was thought in our patriarchal culture, that especially to women who are survivors of violence or discrimination or sexual abuse, that they cannot survive on their own and they are dependent on the instigator of violence, so they must suffer silently. However, what we discovered and what we learned from these phenomenal women is that they are a very determined, passionate, and unique workforce, which is not to generalize, but I think there is a story from each person that also determines a bit their will sometimes, and what we discovered is a very, very strong will in the phenomenal women we work with. So part of the things that we do, I don't know if okay, so first is we also do general training. So we don't do anything that has to do with legal and psychological support. This is done by the NGO we work with. But what we do is much more related and focused on employment and jobs. So we do general life skills training, trainings which helps women integrate the workforce, but also be up to date of what's happening, because sometimes, just for the sake of the example, one of the phenomenal women did accounting, but 20 years ago, and a lot of the softwares and systems did change today, and there is a need also to update and be up to date, because that's how professionalism also is expected from the workplace. So we do general life skills training. We also do so. When we started, we also surveyed with the phenomenal women what the skills that they have, because violence affects everyone, obviously, across the board in our society, especially when it comes to gender-related violence. But we wanted to start in 2019 with also women who have very difficult economic conditions. So that was our first aim. So we asked what they know or what they want to do. We got a lot sewing and cooking as answers, but then we tried also to get out a bit out of this maybe a bit of the stereotype jobs, and we did with Wershi, I don't know, it's construction work, and we also did training in construction work and furniture construction. But in the beginning, when we started, we also wanted them to feel comfortable and to do what they want and like to do. So we did sewing training, and then we launched our first winter collection with a designer called Noor Najm, which was unique pieces, winter pieces, and each piece was a story on its own. So it's a confidential story, yet every woman did tell her story with embroidery and with the sewing in every detail that she did. So that was our first collection. So we launched it, it was sold out in Beirut. And then we launched the summer collection. And here we set also with the Phenomenal Women with a sewing task force, because Phenomenal Women is also separated into task force. So depending on the skill and the job and what the women would like to do. We brainstormed and we asked them to choose a topic. So it was the same task force who did the winter collection, and their own input was that they want to work on sisterhood, because this is what they felt when they were together in the training, but also when they were creating the collection. They felt that there was a certain solidarity and a certain common trait in a lot, even if the stories are very different, but there were some common traits, and they felt that this teamwork brought a lot of what they called sisterhood. So we did work on the second collection. It has a lot of hands and holding hands. It's also part of their of the brainstorming we did with the Phenomenal Women. So that was the summer collection we did. Okay. And then we had a catering also task force where we did catering for a theater festival and also books launching, but also individual dinners and receptions where also the Phenomenal Women would cook. And there was always a trainer, like for every task force. And in this case, it was Chef Isabella Baffa who handled the cooking task force with the Phenomenal Women. And then we started in, I think, the winter of 2019. We started doing like Christmas cookies and stuff that can come back every season. In August 2020, the boutiques where we were selling our clothes in Saifi and in other Beirut areas, and so they were destroyed after the explosion, which is sad, but compared to the tragedy that was there, I guess maybe doesn't even need to be mentioned at this stage, because I think people lost much more important things in the August explosion. So after that, we went into a bit of a hesitation with the crisis in Lebanon, but actually the crisis just increased violence and worse in Lebanon as well. There was a new study that was done last year. Around 90% of survivors in NGOs were saying that they don't feel it's the right time to talk about their violence because we don't have electricity, we don't have water, we don't have food, we don't. So women's safety and women's protection was put on the side. It was a study done by Abad, an NGO in Lebanon. So, and for us, this is another urgency as well. So we just stood up again, and so we presented to Station F in France, also to be able to, I think, have a bigger impact and maybe grow in terms of a social enterprise. Let's see if someone is waiting in the room.
Yeah, I accepted, Rana.
Okay, all right. So since then, we, as I told you, we're working on the GIA project. We're also continuing our trainings, and we're now developing an e-shop, a website for the items we create, and hopefully we are going to continue doing that. Now, we always have this question about why is this a social enterprise and not an NGO? And one of the things we also notice when it comes to employment and jobs and financial independence is that there is merit in working, and also there's satisfaction in working, and there's so it's not charity. There is a sense of dignity from financial independence and work that shouldn't be treated the same way as humanitarian aid. It's not the same at all. And it is our responsibility and the responsibility of phenomenal women to offer the best skills and the best jobs for what they do and what we do. And I think that's important for us in the nature of our enterprise, but also in what we decided together with the phenomenal women, that this is an opportunity for us to grow, and it is our right to work, but we also have to deliver well. So it's part of the principle and part of the necessity of producing and creating and be satisfied and work according to the professionalism we also said, and that's why it's a social enterprise. It's not an NGO. I don't know if I took a lot of time, Raghad, but I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Rana, for your important work. And yeah, I'm sure there's a huge need in Lebanon on all levels. But this is an important field, and I'm...
You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, you're fine now. Yeah.
Now, can you hear me? Okay, yeah. So I'm sure, with your diverse program, you were able also to empower women to be financially independent and get out of those chains that tie them to the violent instigator, as you said. And I was really touched also by when you said that they suffer silently, which is very true. They prefer to stay silent than to speak up against their abusers. I think Heba, who is here with us, can also confirm this. Heba, you can unmute. Heba, حطي السبيكر on.
Yeah.
اوكي هبه. بعرف انه عربي انجليزي شوي صعب، بس I'm sure you were able to follow. بس فيكي تحكي لنا شوي بس على هاي الجزء تبع انه اللي بيتعرضوا لعنف اسري بيضلوا ساكتين وبيقبلوا هذا الشيء لفتره معينه، طبعا لانه كمان ما بيقدروا يتحرروا اقتصاديا.
مرحبا. أول شيء أنا إذا بدي أحكي عن الموضوع، ولو إنه أنا موضوعي بشكل شخصي ما كان مرتبط بالاقتصاد، بس بشوف إنه القوة لكيف نتحرر أو نستقل ماديا هذا موضوع ما إنه بسيط وكتير مهم بالدرجة الأولى لأي إنسان، فأكيد للنساء بيكون أهم بكتير من أو إذا بدنا نرجع أكثر للثقافة من بلادنا. أنا جاي من سوريا، لبنان يمكن نفس الشيء إلى آخره. كيف في هيك سلطة متعمدة من الذكر أيا كان أو من الرجل يعني كيف يحتكروا النساء على وجودهم بالبيت وما يتعلموا شيء، وحتى إذا تعلموا وأخذوا شهادات فما بالضرورة يقدروا يروحوا على الشغل. وهذا أنا بشوفه إقصاء بالدرجة الأولى للحق. كيف نقدر نستقل؟ لأنه العمل هو مو بس مرتبط بقد ايه نحن قويين ماديا، هو للصحة النفسية وللصحة الجسدية والعقلية، هو حرية بحد ذاتها، لأنه الإنتاج بالحياة كثير مهم. وأكيد هو بمرحلة من المراحل أنا مريت بهذا الضغط، أو فينا نقول لما بلش مثلا كورونا فأنا عشت ضغط من هذا النوع اللي له علاقة ما كان في شغل. الحلول كانت كتير أو معدومة فعليا، وكيف وكيف هذا الشيء بيأثر على على الأداء كله بشكل عام. وأنا مثلا إذا أنا بدي أحكي عن شيء شخصي، كيف الشريك ممكن يستغل هذا الشيء لحتى يضعف من الشخصية أو يصير فيه تحكم يعني. فمسألة جدا خطرة على أي إنسان، وخصوصا نساء بالعموم، بنات بالعموم. مفروض التحرر يكون من كل الجوانب، ومسألة إنه نتعلم شيء ونعمل شيء. أنا عم بسمع عن المشروع وكتير يعني مبسوطة، يعني فيني أقول إنه مبسوطة إنه رنا عم تحكي عن هاي الأشياء اللي هي كتير مهمة. ما بعرف، ما كتير قادرة أحكي أكثر من هالكف، أو فينا نتشارك يعني شوي صار هيك.
كتير هبة, and I'm going to translate part of what you said for people who don't understand Arabic. That Heba is saying that in her case, the economic side was not the major issue in the domestic violence that she suffered, because she was always active and she was always producing her art and was able to also support herself. But she talks about the power of men in our society as the brother or the father or the husband and even the son over the women, how they control them and how they undermine their role and even stop them from work. So the need to work is to feel you are productive, to feel you are part of the society, is partly for economic dependence and also for psychological importance also. And Heba is saying that she felt very happy when she heard about this project that Rana is talking about. She felt connected to the woman that she showed in her presentation, and where she is now, she is a little bit restricted in speaking up more. And this is when we go back to, how the women suffer silently and how we need to speak up and really demand change in the society and in the mentality of all the society, which Rana has touched on also in her presentation. Okay, I will open the floor for any questions. Please unmute yourself when you would like to ask Heba or Rana. You can also write your questions in the chat.
I'm Chris Ward. I'm represented by the gallery, and I'm always amazed at the depth of ideas that comes from the gallery, particularly from the feminist perspective. And this whole idea of intersectional feminism is so important. I mean, the experiences you discussed, they seem to be a large number of people very much held in position by, the different statuses they have according to their intersectionality. So what I'm excited by is the way that the energy to change the society has come from very personal points of view about who people want to be and how the fact that they change themselves actually will start to change that society. So my question maybe for both of you is how strong is the movement to create those economic and personal freedoms, and are they being seen more seriously as in the wider society, and particularly by the patriarchy?
Rana, would you answer this? Are you able to answer this, Rana?
Yeah, of course. It's quite complex. I mean, I'm not sure if it's our society or it's a general also concept for me, because now, let's say when we moved to me and Caroline, when we moved to France, we also did some research and studies about the situation in France, and financial dependence is also part of the difficulty of leaving a cycle of violence. So there is a lot of resemblance in a lot of things. The difference, I think, and here is, so there are facts, but also my opinion. In Lebanon, 23% of women only work and participate to the employment or the economy in a way or another. Those are the registered numbers, of course. The official numbers, there are unofficial numbers. I'm going to talk about them a bit. It's because part of the violence instigated on women is it's forbidding women from working, whether they are wives or daughters or sisters, or so. And this also has to do with the fact not only women not to be financially independent and free, because it is part of freedom. It is part of freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of a lot of things. But it's also about the role at the household and who should be doing everything at the household alone. So there's no time to work in this case, so there's no share the load. So that's part of the violence, not allowing or forcing women not to work. Now, women in Lebanon today, it's not that they were allowed to work, is that the fact that they took matters into their own hands a few years back, but today you can see this after the revolution of 2019. You can see that there is much more will and power, even if there is also an increase of violence. They took this right to work, whether it's officially or in some cases unofficial labor. So it's let's say cleaning labor, or let's say sewing, but in your own house, or cooking and then selling in your own house, doing some of the ingredients that are very particular in our country, and then they sell them in the village. So they took these matters because there is obviously a very big economic crisis, and they kind of had to survive. But also there was a shift in the belief, or not in the belief, there was a shift in the possibility of changing the status quo after the October Revolution, and through a very wide number of years of feminist activism in Lebanon, because it is a very loud voice in Lebanon, even if it's not majoritarian voice, but it is a very loud voice. How does the patriarchal society respond to that, or the religious institutions, or the society, or the cultural, in some of the cultural spaces? I think there is more violence towards women because there is a shift. I think there's more violence, not necessarily just domestic abuse, but there's more. You can feel that there is, even in the way some of the politicians speak, in the way they behave with you on the street. I feel there is a look at women today as a rebel force, and it's true, it is a rebel force. Now, I think, like in many societies and in many countries, and for too long, the means of, whether it's financial means or political means or legal means of women, were very limited. So today we are faced with not only societal barriers, but also political barriers and legal barriers. So even the law in Lebanon is a law that is a hurdle for women to be able to be free in many instances. And to go back to the silence that Raghad was mentioning as well, also the legal aspect jeopardizes a lot of women standing up and saying, okay, I was abused, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, and I'm gonna talk about it. Not only because in many instances in our society, there's a notion that we call an honor notion that is linked to women and their bodies and their sexuality. So you cannot talk about sexual abuse, but there's also a legal hurdle, which is a very small sentence for such a serious crime. So a lot of women do consider that, okay, if this is going to be like 3 years and then the abuser is going to be out again, it's a danger for me. So neither society helps, neither the legal aspect helps, neither the political aspect helps, which are all, neither the religious institutions help because this is a totally different topic, but also they are very discriminatory to women. So a lot of women do consider this. You have to know that in Lebanon, so it's not, and this, Raghad, also to come back a bit to what you were saying, it's not about empowering other women in Lebanon, and I think in a lot of other countries, 1 in 4 women is sexually abused. 49% of rapes are incestuous rapes, so within one family. So it's 64% of women were harassed in a public space. It is a society, it's a phenomenon of a society. It could affect me, my friend, my mother, my sister at any day, at any point of the day, of the year of life. So it is not something that, you know, it's us and then we are fine. And then there are, of course, maybe I personally didn't have such a traumatic experience. So my strength today in phenomenal women, if what I'm doing is not, I think it's so small in front of someone who lived a traumatic experience and then said, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight and I'm going to work and I'm going to be financially independent. I'm going to take my children away. I'm going to give them a better life. So actually what happens is, I think the empowerment is the other way around. I feel sometimes I'm like, if I was living this, I don't know if I could have the same strength. But violence is not something that is alien to any women in our country, in our society. And I think today we realized that maybe violence is a global issue by so many centuries built in a very, very patriarchal way. So the foundation of patriarchy are very old and very strong. But I think today there is a decision, I think, by many of us to shift things around. And it's not about accepting or not, because we're no longer asking for permission.
Yeah. Now, when I was researching this and thinking about it, there seems to be a kind of embedded toxic masculinity, which is kind of linked to the way that the culture embeds roles for men and for women. And then part of the men thinking they're being men is also about them dominating their women or subjecting them to rules and placing them in a hierarchy. Is there a way in which what you're doing represents a way forward which will take some of that tendency away by giving women actual power in terms of, you know, what they choose to do, who they choose to be, or are you aiming just to kind of break the hegemony of, you know, society being violent towards women through its men?
I think that working on employment specifically and financial independence specifically has definitely an impact. Now, I don't know if we are going to achieve a big impact or not on the long run, but I know from the women we work with has definitely a take back of freedom or a take back of self control that is important. It's not only about, because this is part of violence. Economic violence is part of violence. So yes. Well, I think that the difference is not that violence is bad and then we stop. It's much more taking the reins of your own life. And it's not only also about being ambitious just by career, but even in that, even having an ambition, even having the potential of producing, I think Heba did mention that, has a lot to do with mental health and how we see ourselves and the confidence we have. Now, it is about taking a self-control. But if we are theoretical about it, and I don't think we can be theoretical about a lot of things, but if we are theoretical about it, working or employment, or increasing the share of employment in a society, and I'm not linking it to violence here, I'm linking it to the economic violence, so and not allowing women to work, is beneficial for everyone. So it's not a war, right? It's more a right that you are taking back. It's not, we're saying we're the only ones who are going to work and you guys are not going to work. It's not about that. It's much more, it's not about taking the domination to be dominating. No. It's about taking the domination of your own self, your own body, your own life, your own, which is I think a basic right. And we're not even there as a, so that's what I feel. I think, yes, it has to do with taking back the reins. It has to do with taking the domination from someone else dominating someone. And this is a struggle that is sometimes gender sensitive, but sometimes has other also aspects when one part of society wants to dominate another part of society, whether legally, politically, culturally, socially, economically. And I think today there is an economic and political and legal and violent control over women in Lebanon. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Noor has a question. We saw she had
Yes, hi, I'm Noor. My question is, as a social enterprise, how do you ensure you champion the voice of individual women as opposed to categorizing them in a group? Because I think with work like this, that can often be a problem.
Raghad, I couldn't hear. I don't know if you did.
The sound is not very clear, Noor. Could you write your question in the chat, please, so I can ask it to Rana?
Yes, I'll just do that now.
Yeah, because the sound of your computer, I think, there's echo, and we cannot understand. Yeah, but I love what you said, Rana, about taking the reins of your own life and self-control. Yeah, it's very important, and not being also bound to only household work. You know, we are capable of intellectual and management and engineering works. So why should women only be, you know, for raising the children and cooking and cleaning? So and that is part also of, you know, the training that I'm sure you are doing for the women. You said you give them workshops in furniture, in construction work. Yeah, that is very I think that's,
but it's also about choice, Raghad. So I don't mind if someone wants to, and
yeah,
there's a mutual understanding, let's say, and someone wants to not work. I mean,
yeah,
it's really about having a choice and about being free in that choice. You know, it's because choice sometimes is hides a lot of, there's a lot of things behind what we call the choice, but yeah, it's more about that.
True. I have Noor's question now. How do you ensure you champion the voices of all women as opposed?
I'm sorry, say yeah, I just want to say sorry, there are a few typos in my comments, so would you mind if I read it?
No problem. No, don't worry. Don't worry. Let me read your question, please, Noor, because your sound is not clear. So how do you ensure you champion the voices of all women as opposed to generalizing women into one category? This can often be a problem because this type of work I am interested in that dynamic.
So first, I don't champion the voices of all women. Personally, I can't. I mean, I don't think I would be able to champion the voices of all women. I think voices of women are very diverse, very unique, and I think a lot of women champion their own voices. What I think is that there's a phenomena that is generalized, which is there is violence against women because they are women. And I think that there is economic violence against women because they are women. And I think that financial independence can help get out of the cycle of violence. That's the only, if you want, generalization that we are making. And I don't think this can sum up any woman or sum up a group of women. I think this is part of a much more complex identity of each woman, but it is a phenomena that exists, whether it's violence that is against women because they are women, economic violence that is against women because they are women, and how being able to work and be financial independent can help break a cycle of violence. Maybe sometimes it can't, but sometimes it can.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question, Noor, you can type because I think there's a mic problem, or if or maybe I didn't get it.
Yeah, I think Heba also has something to add to this. Like Heba, إنه السؤال إنه نحن عم نقول النساء بشكل عام ورأي وصوت النساء بشكل عام، إنه ليش نحن عم نحط كل النساء بصنف واحد؟ هن مختلفين وفي دايناميك مختلفة بكل إنسان وظروفه وظروف حياته. فرنا جاوبت إنه الشيء الوحيد اللي أكيد هي ما عم تجمع كل الأصوات بصوت واحد، بس هي عم تقول إنه هيدا العنف هو اللي بيجمع، اللي بتتعرض له النساء، كونه النساء هو اللي بيجمعهم بهاي الحالة اللي بيكون العنف موجه تجاههم. فإذا عندك أي شيء تقولي، بعرف إنه أنت عشتي تجارب قاسية وصعبة وقدرتي إنك تطلعي قوية مثل ما قالت رنا، إنه هدول النساء على الأغلب هن عندهم تصميم وعندهم حب للحياة وعندهم إرادة قوية. لأنه أنا طبعاً بعرف القصة اللي أنتي تعرضتي إليها وبعرف قد إيه إرادتك كانت قوية، لأنك قدرتي تطلعي وتربي ابنك وتكسري هذا الدائرة تبعت العنف اللي بتحبس المرأة جوا وما بتعود تقدر تطلع. أنا بعرف من تجربتك العملية. فبس قولي لنا هيك شوي، شو رأيك لما إنه بيحاولوا يقولوا إنه ليش عم تجمعوا النساء كلهم بهذا
أوكي. أوكي، شكرا. أنا عندي تعليق كتير مهم. أنا جاية من سوريا وهو لي 9 سنين عايشة بالسويد. في مسألة بسيطة كتير يمكن بدي أحاول أنطلق منها، واللي هي القوانين بالعموم، القوانين اللي بتحكم بالحياة. يعني القانون بحد ذاته بده تطوير. مسألة كتير بديهية إنه أنا لما جيت على السويد وبعرف بكل الاتحاد الأوروبي بدون أي سبب دائما أجر الرجل أو الراتب تبعه أعلى من أجور النساء لهلا. يعني هي مسألة بسيطة كتير، بس بيترتب عليها يعني 1000 خطوة وخطوة كيف ممكن تتطور القوانين حتى بأكثر الدول اللي تعتبر حالها متطورة بوضع النساء. حقيقة أكيد ما عنا نحن نساء عموما أو كل النساء مثل ما قالت رغد إنه نحن ما عنا كوبي بيست، ما عنا شخص واحد، كل واحد عنده بصمة، كل واحد عنده طاقة وإلى آخره. بس فعليا اللي بيجمعنا حقيقة هو، إذا بدي أنطلق من هي النقطة الصغيرة، سياسيا واجتماعيا. وأنا بشوف كتير فرق مثلا بين النساء السويديات اللي هن سويديات، أنا عايشة بالسويد، وكيف درجات القمع والمجتمع الثاني اللي هو المجتمع اللي ما سويدي. نحن مجتمعات مختلفة بالسويد، بس المهاجرين أو اللي من أصول مهاجرة عنا دائما هذا الصراع تبع كيف بدنا نتخلص من العادات والتقاليد وإلى آخره. الدين مثلا، سلطة الدين بحد ذاتها مسألة مرعبة حقيقة، وكيف ممكن يكون كل إنسان أو كل سيدة كيف بدها تتحرر من كل هدول. بس مع هذا وكله حتى كل النساء أو كل الناس اللي عايشين ضمن هي البلد اللي كتير متطورة، القوانين حقيقة فيها إقصاء. فأنا هيك بحب يعني، أو مو بحب، أنا وعم بسمع الحديث كله كنت عم فكر بالقانون بحد ذاته. القانون اقتصاديا إنه في 1000 إشارة استفهام على تقييد هي القوة اللي هي أو مو القوة اللي هي هذا الكائن اللي هو نحن الأم أو الأخت أو أي موظفة أو إلى آخره، أي حدا عم يلعب دوره في حدود معينة بتحد من عدم التطور. أكيد كمان العادات والتقاليد بالسويد في مشاكل. بالأخير نحن بشر كلنا بنشبه بعض، وأنا ضمن هال9 سنين كمان بشوف النساء السويديات ما متحررات 100% كمان. يعني في مشاكل كثير متشابهة إذا فينا نقول، والعنف كمان نحن كلياتنا النساء متشاركين فيه. والاقتصاد والسياسة أول سببين فينا نحكي فيهم. ما بدي أقول الدين لأنه بالسويد أكيد منه هيك، أنا عم بحكي عن بلد عايشة فيها 9 سنين. أكيد ما بدي أحكي عن سوريا لأنه هذا موضوع يعني معقد زيادة. خليني أقول بس هيك.
شكرا هبة. I'm going to translate briefly what Heba said, that she, as an immigrant in Sweden for 9 years now, has noticed that the wages of women, even in Sweden, are lower than the wages of men, not only in immigrant society as general. So she said also Swedish women suffer from these cycles of, being underestimated and overpowered by men. There is traditions and there is religion, and she's not talking about the society back in Syria because it's very complicated, but she's talking about what she has seen in the past 9 years in Sweden. Also, Noor is saying that, assuming that because women have gone through a shared experience, for example, domestic violence, they will have shared views on misogyny as a social enterprise. Do you make that assumption, or do you try and give the women you work with the platform to share their personal and unique stories? I think Rana already answered by saying that each woman have a unique story. And and then maybe you can also.
I think it depends on also each project. What is the objective of each project? In Phenomenal Women, our main objective is financial independence, right? Through the process. So let's say we're doing a collection. Each woman has a story to tell. She can tell the story she wants within the philosophy of our social enterprise. Each woman is obviously unique and has a different look on things. But I think this question, Noor, I think is beyond Phenomenal Women, and because Phenomenal Women has really a very focused objective, which is jobs. And if they want to work or not, they can work with Phenomenal Women. I think that the notion of generalization and that not all women are the same, etc. And although, of course, not all women are the same, not all men are the same, not all refugees are the same, not all Palestinians are the same, not all, etc. However, there is a common struggle that we cannot deny just for being a woman. And this is a struggle that is, yes, it is generalized. There is something that we cannot remove under the the reality that we are very, I know I'm very different throughout my life. It's not that, of course, I'm not like anybody else, but a generalized struggle of being a woman. For example, if I tell you, I'm going back home, it's midnight, call me in 10 minutes to make sure I arrived.
Yeah.
Another woman would totally understand why I said that. And I think in any country in the world, if I'm leaving work at 4 a.m. in an elevator and 6 men enter, they could be the sweetest men alive, I would feel a certain discomfort. If a man is leaving at 4 a.m. and 6 women enter, I don't think he will feel the same discomfort. So there is something that is part of an existence of women that we cannot deny. The laws that are taking for our, decisions for our bodies, the laws that are taking if I can pass the nationality to my son or not, the laws that are being voted on that have to do with rape crimes. All of these are generalized. So yes, the struggle is generalized to a certain extent. To be, at least that's the way I see it. And from a political point of view, I think feminism is something that could intersect with a lot of women, and there is a common ground that we can find just by being women. It doesn't mean we have the same struggles. It doesn't mean we have the same experience. It doesn't mean we are the same. It doesn't mean we have the same views about it. And of course, there are conflicting currents within feminism itself, that's for sure. But can we deny that today there is a group on this planet that's called women, and that they have a certain struggle that they lived with throughout the years? I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. And I can relate to a lot of things that Heba is saying, that Raghad is saying, that probably you are saying. And I think this is just because we are women, and it's not instinctive. So it's not because we are women in life. It's because there are years and years and years of foundation of patriarchal, cultural, religious institutions that instigated our.
Rana, I think your internet has been cut. Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? Yeah, I think Rana's internet is because she's in Beirut. So the electricity and the internet is not reliable. I also wanted to add to what Rana said, that there in the Arab world we hear frequently about honor crimes. The women are killed. They kill them because they made a choice to sometimes without any fault. There was recently this woman in Egypt that a guy wanted to marry her. She said no, and she's a student at the university, and he went there and killed her. So these very, very shocking incidents happen. They happen against women. So we cannot deny that we share all this danger and this way that we are looked at, and especially in the Arab world, unfortunately. I don't know if Rana will be able to join again. We are bound by the electricity in Beirut, but anyone has a question for Heba? Maybe we can just have like 5 more minutes. I can translate for Heba if you would like to ask her anything related to the exhibition, her artwork.
Yes, can I ask?
Yes.
I very much enjoyed Heba's work at the exhibition, and as the two pieces of work played off each other, it did spur me into lots of different thoughts. Heba's work is, as with most artists, very, very personal, and there's quite a strong narrative. Could Heba perhaps break down what her narrative is in a few words?
Yeah, So let me explain to you. So Chris has خليني أحكي لك بالعربي. هبة كريس شاف المعرض وكتير كتير عجبه وكتير تأثر بالأعمال الفنية، بس هو عم يسأل أنتي شو عم تحاولي تقولي بالأعمال اللي هي معروضة بمعرض الفلفت سوسايتي. شو هي القصة؟ أنا بعرف إنه أنتي تحكي قصة حياتك بالأعمال الفنية، وبس هو عم يسأل إنه شو أنتي شو عم تقولي بالأعمال اللي أنتي عرضتيها بالمعرض، أو بشكل عام أعمالك مثلا الأخيرة اللي هي هدول الستوري اللي أنتي عم ترسميها. فبس إذا ممكن هيك تقولي لنا.
أنا بالنسبة لأعمالي واللي هن المعرض، فينا نقول إنه الأعمال كانت انشغلت بال 2013 بالضبط، بال 2013، وهلا نحن بال 2022. أنا عادة برسم، بستخدم الرسم كتدوين للمذكرات أو كتوثيق بالدرجة الأولى بلغة الرسم والألوان والرموز وإلى آخره. والشيء اللي بدي أقوله واضح بعتقد جدا جدا، بس يمكن فيني أضيف عليه هو ترجمة بسيطة اللي هي أنا دائما بشتغل على قوة المرأة. يعني المرأة بحد ذاتها هي العنصر الأساسي اللي أنا دائما عم بشتغل على تفاصيله. فالحياة عموما وانعكاسها علي والأشياء اللي أنا بعيشها بعبر عنها بشكل مباشر بالأعمال، إن كان عنف ولا حتى سعادة ولا أمومة ولا أي مشاعر أنا بعيشها. والهدف هو إنه أنا بشوف بشكل بسيط إنه أنا إنسان أكيد في مثلي كثير ناس ونساء عايشين نفس التجربة، فبستخدم اللغة الخاصة فيني لشارك هي التجربة.
شكرا كثير هبة. So Heba is saying that the works that are shown in the exhibition are mainly from 2013. She has two recent works from 2022 only. And the main object of her work, her artwork, is a woman in all her details. And she likes to emphasize on the strengths of women. Art for her is like her memoir. Instead of writing her memoir, she does the artworks. And recently she has done this story. Every day she does a drawing, and she's telling about her recent experience in protection and after she left home with her son. And she says that her topics are about motherhood, about happiness, not only about violence. It's also erotic. So whatever she feels, she expresses that with color. So color is her tools.
Thank you, Noor. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Heba, sorry.
Yeah, Noor wants to see if there is any way to support, endorse the work you do for Rana. Rana has left us because she wrote to me on a message that there is no electricity. So there is an electricity cut, which happens like that. You know, we maybe in the UK, we don't go through this, but Lebanon does, only 4 hours of electricity. And that was the main reason we changed the time also. So Rana is not able to join. Thank you so much to Heba for joining us today and for speaking to us. And thank you for all of you for joining. I think I will wrap up now and wish you a very end of the day and happy evening. So goodbye, everyone. And
goodbye. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.